Welcome back to GLASP Deep Dive. I'm Hope, here with Adam, and I'm walking in defensive today because the topic is an indictment of my study routine. I reread, I highlight, I close the book feeling on top of things.
And today's claim is aimed at exactly that feeling. The feeling of learning and the fact of learning are two different signals, and they usually point in opposite directions.
Then let me paint the scene you're about to ruin. I open a chapter I've read twice, and every sentence feels familiar. Every paragraph clicks. I close the book, convinced I own that material.
And a week later, you can barely retrieve the main argument. Psychologists call it the fluency illusion. Your brain reads smooth processing as mastery, but smoothness is just smoothness.
That's bleak. Is there a study that catches people in the act of being confidently wrong?
A classic one. Some learners studied a list 4 times in one session. Others spread the same minutes across 4. The crammers felt more confident and even did slightly better immediately. A week later, the spacers remembered roughly twice as much.
Twice as much, off identical minutes. So the crammers aced the dress rehearsal and bombed the show. What's my confidence actually tracking then?
Robert and Elizabeth Bjork spent 40 years untangling that by splitting memory in 2. Storage strength is how deeply a memory is wired in, and it only goes up. Retrieval strength is how easily you can pull it up right now, and it swings constantly.
Let me play that back. Rereading spikes retrieval strength because the page is right there, and I mistake the spike for storage. Then it fades, and there's nothing underneath.
The illusion lives in that gap. In 1994, the Bjorks named the flip side. Conditions that slow you down during practice often improve long-term retention and transfer. Desirable difficulties.
Desirable difficulties. So the awkward, slow, slightly frustrating moves, the exact ones I've been avoiding, are the ones building what lasts.
A later paper, Learning versus Performance, nails the distinction. Performance is what you can do during practice, today. Learning is the durable change in what you can do later. Most habits maximize the first and undermine the second.
So a session that feels productively effortful isn't malfunctioning. That's the transaction going through. The strain means something is actually being written.
That's it exactly. The discomfort is the deposit.
Writing that one down. And it explains why listeners keep hearing the same idea. Active recall, spaced repetition, the Feynman technique, blurting, teaching someone else. All treated as separate techniques on this show.
They're 5 implementations of one principle. Make practice feel a bit worse so memory lasts a lot longer. Desirable difficulties is the umbrella. The rest is plumbing.
The biggest is retrieval practice, pulling information out of memory instead of pushing it back in. We did a whole episode on active recall recently, so for the deep version of the testing effect, go listen to that.
We won't rehash it. Short version, self-testing loses to rereading on the immediate quiz and wins decisively a week later. Today, the rest of the family.
Then start with spacing, since the crammers already got flattened once today. Same minutes, different layout in time.
The oldest finding in the literature. Ebbinghaus described it in 1885. Split the minutes across days instead of one block, and you remember far more later. A meta-analysis of 254 studies found it holds across ages and content.
Why would identical minutes behave so differently? Let me guess. The second back-to-back pass is too easy to do anything.
Exactly. Back-to-back, the second pass arrives while retrieval strength is still high, so it's basically free. And free means worthless. 3 days later, the memory has decayed. Pulling it up takes work, and that work builds storage.
Is there a rule for the gaps? Because left alone, I'll review whatever feels shaky, whenever it feels shaky.
10 to 20% of how long you want to keep it. A month out, review every 3 to 6 days. A year, stretch the intervals. Ignore that instinct. It runs on recency and emotion. Your gut is fluency talking.
Brutal, but noted. Next, interleaving. That's mixing topics inside one session instead of finishing one topic first, right?
Right. Instead of 20 quadratic problems in a row, do one, then a system of equations, then a graph problem, then back. Practice performance drops, and learners rate it less effective even after measurably learning more from it. Maybe the strongest illusion in the field.
Feels worse, rated worse, works better. That's a hard sell to anyone mid-practice. Where's the proof it wins?
A study with middle schoolers learning math. On the practice worksheets, the blocked kids scored higher. On the delayed test, the interleaved kids more than doubled them.
More than doubled. What is interleaving training that blocking isn't?
Discrimination. Mixed problems force you to figure out which tool each one calls for instead of running autopilot. Blocking practices the answer. Interleaving practices the choosing. And choosing is what real tests demand.
And for self-directed reading, that's refusing to finish a topic before switching. A chapter on stoicism, then one on probability, then UI design, then back, while my brain files a complaint.
Your brain will protest, and your brain is wrong. Next up, generation, producing an answer instead of receiving one. A classic 1978 experiment had one group read pairs like lamp, light, while another saw lamp plus the letter L and generated light.
And the generators won, even though the readers were literally handed the answer. So this scales up to attempting the proof before reading it, predicting the result before checking, writing my summary before opening anyone else's.
All of those. The half-remembering, half-guessing frustration is the mechanism, not a side effect.
Where does highlighting land? I ask, with a guilty conscience. Because painting a whole page yellow feels suspiciously smooth.
Yellow bombing is passive. You're outsourcing judgment to a future reread. Sparse highlighting is generative, because committing to this matters more than that is a real decision. You're producing a judgment, not marking territory.
Last of the 5, varied practice. I'm told there are beanbags.
There are. 8-year-olds practice throwing, one group from a single distance, another from a mix that never included the test distance. The mixed group still beat the kids who rehearsed the exact throw being graded.
They never practiced the test throw and still won it. How is that allowed?
The variety built a general representation of throwing, not one calibrated motion. That's transfer, using what you learned outside the conditions you learned it in. For ideas, read the same concept in 2 fields, not 2 chapters of the same book.
Counterweight time. Because someone listening is about to decide that all suffering counts as studying. Is every difficulty desirable?
No, the word desirable is doing real work. A difficulty helps only if you can execute the process it demands. If retrieval is so far past your knowledge that you produce nothing, you're not retrieving, you're flailing.
So where's the line between productive struggle and just flailing in the dark?
Aim to fail on roughly 20 to 40% of retrieval attempts. 0 is too easy, 90 is overload. Finish tired, but holding something to compare against the source. And when you're producing nothing, don't romanticize it. Get the explanation and scaffolding, then come back.
That maps onto a 2x2, storage strength against retrieval strength. High storage, high retrieval is mastered and fresh. Low storage, low retrieval is brand new and needs scaffolding. Which quadrant should scare me?
Low storage, high retrieval. Stuff you just reread and feel you know, but never built. Cramming lives exactly there, which is why it feels great the night before and is gone by the weekend.
Let's land this in practice with a disclosure first. GLASP makes this show, and GLASP is a reading and highlighting tool. So let's be honest about where a tool fits into work that's supposed to be effortful.
Fair. A tool can add friction or remove it, and you want the right kind added. Highlight sparingly, then write a short note in your own words on why the passage matters. The sparse pick is discrimination. The note is generation.
What about AI chat? Asking it to summarize a chapter I haven't read sounds wonderfully smooth.
Smooth in exactly the wrong way. Better, read the chapter, close it, write your reconstruction from memory, then have the chat grade your version against the source. You did the retrieval, it did the comparison.
And spacing, since my gut lost the scheduling job. Calendar reviews of highlights from a book I read 3 weeks ago? Rebuild the argument before scrolling?
That's the move. And after a video summary, close it and write 3 things you'd want to remember in a year. Then check the transcript.
I'll say the honest limit, so you don't have to. A tool that does the retrieval for you is doing the learning instead of you. That part of the work is non-transferable.
Couldn't agree more. Nobody can carry the friction for you.
Quick questions to close. First, should I struggle on every single problem all the time?
No. Productive struggle, not flailing. If you're producing nothing, back up, get scaffolding, then return. 20 to 40% failure is a target, not a badge.
Second, spacing intervals. And let me try the closed book version. 10 to 20% of the retention horizon. Stretch the gap when a review felt easy, shorten it when it felt hard.
Perfect retrieval. And notice it cost you a little effort to produce. That was the system working on itself.
Last one, the uncomfortable one. If this evidence is decades old, why does school still teach the easy way?
Because massed practice looks better on the quiz given right after instruction, and institutions measure performance, not learning. It's structural, not personal. You, as a self-directed learner, don't have to wait.
So the takeaway from a reformed rereader? If it feels easy, I'm probably not studying. The fix isn't grinding longer. It's swapping one comfortable habit for its harder version.
One swap tomorrow. A reread becomes a closed book reconstruction. A cram block becomes a few spaced reviews. That swap is the whole game.
Want to go deeper? Full articles on glass.co. Just search desirable difficulties.
See you in the next deep dive.